I'm going to show you how to graph this absolute value function. As it is, it's in a form that we want. I don't have to move anything around. So I'm going to start by finding the vertex. Now you'll notice that the function that we're given has a negative in front of the absolute value. This is telling us that the graph will be facing down because a negative in the front of the absolute value indicates a reflection across the x-axis. So that means my vertex will end up being the highest point of this V shape. So you have the vertex at the top and then both sides face down forever. So when you find your vertex, you're just plugging in negative b over m. That becomes your x value. And then c becomes your y value. That part's easy. So we've got negative 1 over negative 2 would be b over m. But we need negative b over m. So I've got a negative in front of both of those. And then c is just positive 1. So simplifying, we have negative 1 over negative 2, which would become positive 1 over 2. However, there's still a negative in front. So our vertex is negative 1/2, comma 1, and you can see that point on the graph. So when I'm making this graph and I'm putting other points on there, this point as of now is the highest point on that graph. The other points that I put on there should all be lower than that point. I'm going to plot other points by making an XY chart. So if the vertex has an x value of negative 1/2, I'm going to plug in x values that are close to negative 1/2. So I've chosen some numbers. Sorry, this should be a negative 2. That was a mistake I found on my second try on this video. Now I'm on my third time's a charm. Hopefully this one's good. So we're plugging in 0 and 1 because those are to the right of my vertex. And we're going to plug in negative 1 and negative 2 because those are to the left of my vertex. So I'm going to demonstrate how you would plug in 0. Maybe. This has been a rough go at it, guys, but I'm not pausing this one. This is going to be the video I upload. Okay, so inside the absolute value, I've got a negative 2 times 0 minus 1. I'm going to start with this just like you would start with parentheses in your order of operations. Now, the negative in front needs to stay in front. Do not be tempted to distribute it in. Nothing can go into the absolute value. Nothing can come out. Leave it as is. So on the inside of the absolute value, I have 0 minus 1 because negative 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So again, don't be tempted with that negative in front. These do not cancel with each other. I need to find the absolute value of negative 1, which is positive 1, but I still have the negative in front. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So our point would have an x value of 0 and a y value of 0. So I've put it in my XY chart. I've also put it on the graph. Again, that should be a negative 2 in the XY chart. The last x value I'm going to plug in for you is negative 1. So again, we start inside the absolute value. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. So then we have 2 minus 1, which is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. So we end up with negative 1 again, plus 1, which is 0 again. So we end up with another point, -1, comma, 0. So I encourage you to pause the video right now. I highly recommend that so that you can plug in the other two numbers. And then when you're ready, you can go back and hit play and see what I got for those values. And then I'll have the entire graph on there. So when you plug in 1 and when you plug in -2, both of those should result in a y value of -2. I've connected my points and I have my absolute value function. Again, it's facing down because of that negative in front, and you can see how this graph is symmetric about that vertex. So if you were to draw a line through the vertex, it's a mirror image on both sides.